Let's see now how to create a list of words within our Excel file so that to get familiar with textual management. In the column A, we'll insert names of people such as Manuel, Rob, John, Michael, and Rupert. As you see, all these are male names. Let's add 5 more female names in the column B. No need to say, you can choose the names you prefer to be inserted. These are lists we'll use later to carry out the first operations, both with and without formulas. These first 2 word lists have been created. Let's add 2 numerical lists in the columns which come next. We'll start with one numerical list with increasing by 5 numbers, and you will see later why, and another list which starts from a greater number to go backwards, in this case with numbers decreasing by 10. As you can see, there's no difference at all between the textual and the numerical list. Right now, these 2 lists are offset on the sheet. Starting from the next lesson, we'll learn how to order them by copying, by cutting, and by pasting. Now we've got a completed list. Let's see then how to order, filter, and remove the duplications in our file. First thing, let's go to the second sheet we created, folder 2, and let's select column B, right-clicking on Insert to be able to divide our list and make things easier in this lesson. Let's focus our attention now on how to order a list using the icon Sort and Filter. We'll use the first item of the menu to list from smallest to largest. As you see, the first value is 5 and the last is 80. If we wanted to do this backwards, we would just need to click on the same icon and sort from largest to smallest. Let's consider ordering a list of people, well, names in this case, the same way. Before we had the command smallest to largest. Now the order is from A to Z. Therefore, after sorting, the first name will be Angela and the last Sarah. We can obviously do it the other way around. Moving to the other sheet, now we'll focus on how to filter the created list. Let's add a row where to insert name for names and age for ages according to the contents. To filter, select the same icon we used before and go to Filter. We can now decide to sort, for example, according to age, deleting afterwards the digits from 10 to 20. You'll see our list has been reduced to all those names and ages corresponding to 5, 25, and from 40 to 80. To delete the filter we've just set, simply click on the filter icon once again. This way, as you can see, the list has been restored to its original state. Mind, one of the most common mistakes dealing with filters is setting the filter on the wrong location within the list. If we didn't have the first row already created, and if we wanted to set a filter, we would notice the first row interpreted as a sort of header indicating some sort of value for the rest of our list, the way we saw with name and ages. However, if we filtered now the item called 80 corresponding to Jenny, this wouldn't display on the screen. Therefore, you must always consider the adding of the row when setting the filter criteria. At this point, let's go back as seen in the previous lesson by using the back arrow, otherwise by using Ctrl-Z, which is the same choice. And here we are back to our completed with names and ages list. Let's take a little step back now. In this list, sitting on two columns next to each other, A and B, let's remove the header simply by selecting the A1 cell and by ordering the list. We'll see it will be ordered according to A column. Consequently, the items in B column will be placed exactly where they're sitting now, corresponding to the correct name. If we sort them, we'll see that Angela is 50, just like before. We can double check this by using Ctrl-Z. We can of course make it backwards here as well. Last thing, let's go back to the other sheet and let's modify some values. For example, let's take 5 and transform it into 10. And let's transform 50 into 10. We are seeing how to remove duplicates within a sheet, be it numerical, in this case, or textual. We'll do that later. You just have to select the column, go to Data, and click on Remove Duplicates. Once clicked, this window will open, containing the representation of the column you just selected. By clicking on OK, it will automatically remove 2 out of the 3 identical values we had previously inserted. So now the list items are 8 if we compare them with the list we had before. Let's always verify this with Ctrl-Z. Same thing can be done with the names. Let's alter Michael into Michelle. Select the A column and once again click on Remove Duplicates. OK. Here also the duplicated item Michelle has been removed and we just have one on display. Now that we've got our list, let's see how to select, cut, copy and paste the various contents of the spreadsheet. In this moment, we've got 2 lists of names, column A and B, and 2 lists of numbers, column C and D. These lists have no association among them, as we cannot say whether, for example, column A corresponds to C or D. Now let's start working by selecting within column D the list with the 5 numbers we inserted. We can select them both from top to bottom and from bottom to top. In this case, there is no difference at all. Now right-click and open this menu, select Copy and move to the B10 cell of the same sheet. Then select B10 cell and by right-clicking to paste within the menu Paste Options menu, select this value represented by the icon 1, 2, 3. Paste in the newly created values. These numbers, as we have previously copied them, can be deleted. Something more now. It's time to work on the second list with a difference. Once we've selected it, we are going to cut and paste it right below the one pasted before. To cut, let's right click on cut. After that, let's go to B15 cell and let's paste it with the only available option within the paste options. Check the list we've just cut is not on column C anymore. It's time to associate every numerical value with one of the names previously inserted. Let's select the list in column B and repeat the action you've just executed. We'll deal with copying. Although using now the keyboard shortcut, that means pressing Ctrl C to select the 5 words. Afterwards, we move to column A, cell A10. We'll press Ctrl V to paste them. And here we are. Finally, we'll delete the list we've just copied. Now, let's pick the other list in the same way and let's cut it. In this case, the keyboard shortcut is Ctrl X. Once cut, let's paste it again by use the keyboard commands Ctrl V, again below the latest value we've just pasted. Here's finally a logical sounding list of names and values, which could be, for example, names and ages. We can now delete the rows sitting above as we don't need them anymore. We'll select them all one by one from 9 to 1 by right-clicking and then pressing delete. This copy and paste operation can be made also among different worksheets. Let's get on creating our second worksheet where we're going to paste the lists we've just created. Remember the keyboard shortcuts, Ctrl C to copy, then Ctrl V to paste. Check now, we've got two identical lists into different worksheets. Stepping back to what we were saying before about the logic of the inserted numbers in the lists, we may prove what follows. Within this list, if we take, for example, the first 5 numbers, which are decreasing by 10, we can then, by using this popping up plus-shaped button, keep following the same ordering choice to eventually reach, as said, 10. Therefore, from 80, we reach 10 in the 8th cell. Same thing can be made backwards. By selecting the last 2 values, which increase by 5, going back upwards, we'll have the proof that the list goes back exactly to what it looked before. The same procedure can be applied to names as well. If we select, for example, all the 10 names and we drag the pointer down to the 5th cell, we'll see that the first 5 names will be inserted in between cell 11 and cell 15. In this case, if we wanted to follow the path in reverse, we would happen to have 2 identical lists sitting one below the other. To go back to the previous screen, use this button back, which is located at the top of the Excel spreadsheet, which will take us to the latest operation. Now let's save the file and go on to the next lesson. Our current topic is learning about the function find and replace, which is located within the home menu next to the sort and filter icon. By clicking on find within the just mentioned menu, this window will pop up. In it we can insert a value to search within the whole folder or the single worksheet. Let's insert, for example, Sarah, and after inserting the name, just by clicking on Find Next, we'll end up on the corresponding cell within the worksheet. In case we wanted to search the whole spreadsheet, that is the Excel file, we would need to modify Sheet in Workbook within the Options menu where we've just clicked. Now we could find the word Sarah in the other sheet as well. As a proof, by clicking on Next, the system will automatically take us to the A1 cell of the folder _1 sheet. To search more in depth within the file, another option is clicking on Find All, which will find out for us all the corresponding items, listing them. For a more specific case-sensitive search for the name, the button to click is Match Case. In fact, if we should, for instance, replace the uppercase S with a lowercase s, the system would not find the exact result anymore if we did select Match Case, and this message of alert would be displayed. In order to be sure our search works out correctly when using the system, we should replace the lowercase s with an uppercase S and then click on Find Next. This way the result will be correct. In addition to the search function, we can also replace items within the file. For example, if we decide to replace the name Sarah with any other name, let's say Maria, we simply have to insert the name, as we have just done within the corresponding to replace with cell, and then click on Replace All. Following this procedure, the system will alert you about having made two replacements corresponding to two different names in two sheets. Then you just click on OK to double check if the replacements have actually been made. OK, replacement correctly performed. If we wanted to remove Match Case within the system, we could perform a reverse replacement simply by inserting Maria without capital letter and inserting then Sarah in the following cell. Now, by clicking on Replace All, the replacement would work out anyway because we removed Match Case. The find and replace operation and the processes separately, both the seeking and the replacing, may obviously be performed for small textual parts too. For example, we might decide to replace the A letter with the X letter, to verify afterwards with the Replace All the 11 replacements which took place. As you can see, both in these cells and in these as well, the replacement turned out all right. To go back at this point, you just need to replace A with X and X with A and repeat the same operation. These are the main features of Find and Replace in Excel. Before getting to the section Final Test, let's see how to modify the texts in our list. We just need one spreadsheet, no need for the two of them to carry out our lesson properly. Here we can decide the font to choose instead of Calibri, and we can start our lesson. Just choose the cells where to operate the changes and select them. For example, select the A1 to B3 range of cells and set the content to Arial. As you can see, there's surely a difference between cell 3 and cell 4. The size of the font is modifiable too. Let's get from 1 point to 14 point, for example. You can carry out this change on a single cell as well and increase and decrease the size with the help of these two buttons. Here we get as much as 20 points, whereas in here we get back to 11 points. Apart from this function, you can opt for a bold, italics, or underline style for your text. For example, let's make Jenny bold, make Betty italics, and underline Angela. In addition to these basic font-related operations, you can modify the cell color itself. You might like to represent 80 in red, 70 in green, and 50 in blue. Beyond all this, you can modify the background too, that is, the standard white base framed by the cells. Select Jenny and 80 and in the theme color choose an orange fill. For Betty, pick a green fill, and for Angela, go for a customized color fill by clicking on more colors and see all this series of usable colors turns up. Blue, purple, and so on and so forth. As an alternative, you can customize it by selecting a color out of this palette. Now select gold, choose the gradient and enter OK. And this way the cell will have this color. Obviously, you can perform the same operation onto the color of the text itself. Instead, to go back to the beginning and to remove all content from within the cells, so to have a wide, clean sheet, let's select all the cells, double-click on bold. This is because we've modified just one cell, therefore you need to convert all cells to bold as first thing. This way, and after this, remove the bold style from all. Same thing for italics and underlined font styles. In any case, the chosen style is evident from checking the single cell, and you can remove it by simply clicking once. To get rid of all colors, you just need to choose No Fill. To get rid of any sort of color fill and then opt for a color text instead, just click on Automatic. To get our 6 cells back to their original state, just select Calibri, 11 points, and here they are, the way they used to be at the very beginning. Another option, always as far as dealing with characters, is to properly align every single row or every single cell. Let's expand these 2 columns as seen earlier on, and these 2 rows this way. Now the numbers are sitting bottom right, whereas the text is sitting bottom left. You can align both cells the way you like best. For example, working on the text, you can middle align them width-wise as well as height-wise. You can also decide to top align your text in every single cell and then right top align it. Same thing applies to numbers. Now let's top left align them. In addition to this kind of operations, you can also merge more than one cell. For example, select Sarah and her 60 years, click on Merge and Center. Consequently, you'll see a pop-up window warning you about merging the 2 cells and considering as a consequence only the value in A1, which is the top left one. Now, see, this single cell ranging from A to B on row 1 only contains Sarah, no age. Instead, all the rest remains exactly as it was. You can perform this operation on 4 cells and on a previously merged cell too. Now let's remove the latest operation in order to get the original 4 cells back. To re-establish the previous state, use Ctrl Z. Here's the completed file ready to go on. Now approaching the leader of formulas in Excel. We'll call them basic formulas as they are mainly used by newbies. First thing, let's delete the contents we've just created in both spreadsheets. Now let's analyze the basic structure of every formula. You can see from the menu there are quite a number of available options to insert new formulas. You can also see they are grouped into convenient categories according to the specific function they execute. In this section, we'll concentrate on the most frequently used Excel formulas, such as sum, which is represented by equal to, and it's the very beginning of every formula. Please keep in mind this input is like telling Excel, hey, I'm inserting a formula. So we were saying equal to sum. In this case, after selecting sum, we'll have to open a bracket within which to write the most diverse operations we'll become familiar with later on. Operations which are useful to specify the arguments to be calculated by the function. At this point, we can insert some numbers from different cells, or else numbers that already belong to this specific formula. We will also see some formulas to capitalize all the letters, to exclude capital letters from your text, or to capitalize only the beginning letter of the text, that is, uppercase, lowercase, and proper formulas. In addition to these formulas, we'll see the mathematical operators and the calculation method used by Excel, and eventually some temporal functions dealing therefore with dates, and in particular two formulas to be detailed in the following steps of this tutorial. The most used and therefore common formula within Excel is the sum formula, enabling you to make additions. Like all formulas, it can be inserted exploiting insert formulas, for example, where we will then spot, select, and confirm it by entering OK. You can insert numbers straight away. Please insert 2, 3, and 4 to have these figures displayed. In my case, as you can see, I chose the comma as list separator. Your PC might have set a default semicolon or other symbols. The sum formula structure can be used in the AutoSum function as well, where if you simply click on sum, you can see that the already preset and blank formula may contain numeric or cell values, as recently seen in insert function. Now insert the following 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 in A, B, C, D, and E cells. To sum these values, you can insert manually the following function: equals to sum, open round bracket, A1, B1, C1, D1, E1, close round bracket, then enter OK. This way, all the inserted previously filled cells will be singularly added to one another, resulting therefore in a sum representing all values which, watch out, if you decided to delete one, say the middle cell, would automatically change the result of our sum. In addition to this kind of sum, you can use the sum function on a data range. Then select with the mouse A1, E1 range of cells from A1 to E1 to be sure to have fully snatched the range, and simply by inserting a column between the first and the last selected cell, and then by closing the round bracket and by pressing enter, you'll obtain the same result. Now, in case you wanted to add values sitting on offset rows, you might, for example, insert the following values 8, 10, 12 in the second row. In this case, you could select every single cell singularly, or else use a unique range starting from row 1 and ending in row 2, from A1 to E2 included. Once obtained a result in offset rows, let's see the formula with no reference cells. Go back to the formula above mentioned with commas interspersed by using Ctrl-Z and insert now different values within the formula itself that are 3 and 6 instead of A1 and B1. Then press enter on the keyboard. See how the result adapts to the single values inserted in our formula. They have been added to those already inserted in the cells. Now that the basic structure of formulas is clear, we can delete the content of our cells to focus on a series of formulas which are used for textual values. In particular, we learn how to uppercase, lowercase, and how to capitalize only the first letter of a text. Let's insert a series of names the way we have already done, which can now be modified and converted to uppercase, thanks to the use of the upper formula. Once you have written upper, simply open the round bracket, select the desired cell, close the bracket, and press enter on the keyboard. As you can see, the name Jenny now looks written completely with capital letters. To convert also the other words to uppercase, select and drag the formula with this tool, Fill Handle, so that the other names are now uppercase as well. As you can see, in this cell, A1 is not displayed anymore. A1 is the equivalent of Jenny. Instead, on display, you can see A2, which is the equivalent of Sarah. You can perform the same operation also with the lower formula, enabling to convert all the text lowercase. Have a go. Write lower, open round bracket, select A1 cell, close the round bracket, and press enter on the keyboard. See, here as well, all the selected cells have shifted to lowercase. At this point, move on to A1 cell and make only the first letter of this list created thanks to the lower function, make it uppercase using the proper formula which will affect the first letter of every selected cell, in this case C1. Close it and see the first letter becomes capitalized. Now drag and notice that all the words in the other cells begin with a capital letter as well. Surely you saw that you can perform the same operation also starting from the cells created through other formulas. This is because Excel interprets the single cell along with its corresponding value. You might also insert upper on this cell to make everything uppercase. You can copy and paste the same formula on Michelle so that it becomes uppercase. This is because Excel, for its own logic, when copying a formula both vertically and horizontally, goes and picks the cell which is exactly corresponding to the formula itself. Let me explain better. In this case, Jenny is sitting in C1. If we went down 2 rows, remaining on the same column though, Excel would pick the same column where Jenny is, inserting the relative row. Same thing applies to moving from column to column. and then by copying and pasting in G1, we would have Jenny again, because the system considers E1 exactly with the column in between like before, and therefore here as well you could create through the proper function a word which has been modified according to your needs. Let's talk now about the mathematical operators and about the calculation logic employed by Excel in its formulas. We can now delete the content created, as we have already seen previously through delete, and let's explain the functioning logic these types of calculations follow. Excel uses a logic called BODMAS, which sort of prefers a set order of priorities for math operators. Let's drill it down a bit. Let's say Excel expects all formulas to have brackets. These brackets are used also to diversify all the different calculations within a cell. Other important thing, the set order of mathematical operators that Excel considers logical implies division first, then multiplication, followed by addition and subtraction last. Let's make some example. Let's insert a series of numbers 3, 6, 9 in the first cells, and then let's move to E1 cell and let's work out the first calculations. You don't need any type of name to make the calculations, because in this case Excel using equal to will behave just like a calculator, with the difference that in our specific case we are using 3 cells as a base. Of course, you can work out calculations also without the help of the cells. Let's go on and let's add the 3 values. As you can see, this result is the equivalent of the sum formula, that is the sum of A1 to C1 range of cells. We can subtract the same values and obtain a negative result. We can multiply them or divide them. The division is the operation Excel likes best, as we have explained previously. Therefore, if instead of the division operator in here you insert an addition operator, the result will be 6 forward slash plus 3. Of course, you can also work using the round brackets to give priority to specific operations. For example, if you use the brackets enclosing A1 and B1, the calculation will be worked out interpreting A1 plus B1 and then the return sum divided by C1. Check. As you can see, 3 plus 6 equals to 9. 9 divided by 9 equals to 1. The values inserted in the cells can be recalled more than once. Therefore, you might multiply, in this case, C1 by B1 within brackets, so that to create the sum of A1 and B1 cells divided by the multiplication of C1 by B1. These calculations might be performed, as already said, also straightforwardly with some numbers. Therefore, you can select this A3 cell and perform the operation itself in here, inserting the numbers manually. It's well established now that Excel works just like a calculator. In this case too, we can work out diverse calculations. Here you will have the sum of 3 with the result of 6 divided by 9. If instead you decided to remove the brackets from here and to put them this way, the result would be 1. Last thing, please notice that the calculation we are performing in this case, remove the brackets, is equivalent to the one seen previously, because the result is 3 added to the division of 6 by 9. Before going one step further, I'd like to show you two temporal formulas, date and time, which are going to be very useful, above all at work. And these are called the today formula and the Whitnam formula. The today formula simply indicates today's date. Look at this, equals to today, open bracket, close bracket, mine without any value inside. It will give you today's date, the date I'm taping this lesson. In addition to this classical formula to display today's date, there's also the Whitnam option. This formula, through a weekly calculation, provides the number of the week within the work year. Therefore, if you select the C1 cell you created before with 9, close and hit enter on the keyboard, you'll see that the 9th day of the year is inserted within week 2. As said, this tool is commonly used when you're working. I think it's going to come in handy for all of you. The same formula can also be used along with the previous formula. If you selected H1, for example, instead of C1, you would magically get on display the week when we are taping this lesson. Guys, let's focus now on a basic but useful tool. We are now within our book 1 with the 2 previously created files. In this lesson, we are going to see how to apply a header and footer to an Excel file the way we want it to look on a print-to-be sheet of paper, with a superior and inferior fixed parts, exactly the same way as it were a Word file, normally used as a company letterhead document, normally displaying these two features. To insert a header and footer, just go to the Insert menu, click on Header and Footer, and of course, header refers to the top and footer to the bottom. Clicking on this menu, you'll get a different Excel worksheet where you can insert any header, even on the right side or the left side. Once done this, we are going to insert a footer. This way we have inserted our header and our footer, which will be of course recalled in all the other following pages as well. In case you wanted to modify, to edit the header, here for example, which is not the first page, this would make the first page automatically change the header as well. To go back to the previous screen, useful to edit the Excel file in a more user-friendly way, just go in here on this icon carrying the normal tag, as you can see on your monitors, and you will go back to this screen where you can work out all the operations of editing and so on and so forth. See that in between I column and J column there's a dotted line. This line overlaps with, basically it is the line we've just seen on our screen with the header and the footer. See here, the last column is I column and the first is J column. This line is useful in the printing process. In fact, if you go to File, Print, and then select any printer, in this case, I've got OneNote, but I could switch to Microsoft Print to PDF, and the video screen would be the same anyway. The screen would show a page with perfectly set header and footer. In case you also want to insert a header and footer within a second Excel file, you will notice how these two files work out in a totally separate and autonomous way from each other. Therefore, in here, you might have fun inserting a new header and a new footer, which will not coincide with the previous one. Here's the difference to you. Obviously, this applies to all Excel spreadsheets. Now, let's start talking about table formatting. What you see here is the main screen of Book 1. Let's delete what we had previously inserted. You can delete it also simply by selecting everything and hitting the delete button on the keyboard. As you see, the file is blank now. First thing, to insert a new table, you need to select the data to be inserted in the table itself. In this case, let's use names of cities belonging to different countries. Let's start with a series of Italian cities such as Milan, Florence, Rome, Turin, and Venice. You can, of course, insert the towns you like best. Let's insert afterwards some German cities: Berlin, Munich, Stuttgart, Hamburg, and Cologne. After that, let's insert some United States of America cities: New York, Washington, Phoenix, Miami, and Philadelphia. Now we've got a list of 5 cities for every country. To insert the table style, you have to select by dragging and by left-clicking all the data range, and afterwards go to the menu called Insert and insert a table. As you can see, a new window with the name Create Table opens up, displaying the selected and then inserted range of data. Click on OK, and automatically the program opens our new table. Now, instead of the 2 column headings, insert Italy, Germany, and USA. As you may notice, Germany is not fully visible. Therefore, just double-click in between column B and column C to widen the cell to the right size so that the content is totally visible. Right, now in the menu which has just been opened, that is Table Design, where you can navigate freely like in the rest of the menu without deleting anything, you can set the table styles according to your tastes. As for me, I will pick this style which perfectly fits in the table which has just been created. You can also insert some new cities within the table. See here, if you insert Chicago, for example, the table will automatically create a new colored, same look of the others row according to the inserted style. Let's go back to the table design menu which automatically appears every time you move the cursor over any cell on the table. As you can see now, it's outside the table and the menu has disappeared. In addition to choosing the styles, you can create a new one. And to do this, click on New Table Style and set a new style to apply to the table. Of course, you want to name it as well. Let's go on. At the bottom of the table itself, if you click on Format, after selecting the whole table, insert some customized borders. Let's start with the border, and after that, click on Outline in case you wanted an external border, and click on Inside in case you wanted it inside as well. To apply a color, first you have to choose it, and I'm choosing the gray color. And just click once again on Inside, for example, to confirm. Let's change the color to get something more eye-catching. Let's pick green. Now the lateral outer border is black and the inner border is green. Of course, you can change the style of the border as well. Just click once again on Inside. Now select OK, and we've got a formatted table. You can also choose to modify only the first row of the table, the one just below the headings. Set the size of this row working on stripe size. We'll try and modify the first two rows of the table. As a matter of fact, this alteration is affecting all the rows in the following section. In this case, we can choose to modify only two types of rows, the first two, with a formatting style, whereas the third will have a different formatting style, and so on. No worries, you will see what I mean in a sec. Modify the background, opting for a light green, click on OK, and the style is created, and it's going to be displayed as an option in the table style list, labeled as custom. If you click on this menu, the table will be modified. Last tip for you. All the styles Excel offers are modifiable. If you selected, say, the blended columns option, you'd come up with alternated colors applied on the cells, like here within the example tables. That means if you had to select the previously chosen theme, the central column, the one with alternated rows, would display a lighter shade of blue, lighter than the previous one. Let's have a look at the Microsoft Excel models, also called templates. To open a new model, follow the same procedure. Go to File, New, and select the model you want to use from the template list. Let's start, for instance, with the calendar. Click on this model. It will open a window with a title, a brief description, and its dimension. This is important as all these models are located within the Office website and need to be downloaded. Afterwards, click on Create. Once the file is uploaded and ready to be modified, you can perform a series of operations on it. For example, you can choose to modify only the cell content, altering the background color. With Ctrl Z, you can go back to its original state. Navigating through the various pages within this model, you'll see the different colors and images related to the months and to the different seasons. Every calendar page will display a different image. Starting from the page layout menu, you can choose to modify these models by exploiting the themes. Simply click within this menu to choose a different theme to apply thoroughly to the Excel file. Let's select badge, for example. Through this edit, the theme will modify the file contents as far as the title color of every spreadsheet, plus the colors and text inserted within them. Basically, the edit will affect all. As you can see in the cells, there are, in this case, some formulas which will be introduced later on. Let's save our file. Go to File, Save As, choose Excel_in, then name this file Calendar and click on Save. Once saved, let's close this file and let's select a new model. The simple invoice model, for instance, as it has been mentioned at the beginning of this course, follow the same procedure for this model. Title, description, and dimension, then click on Create. Here is our simple invoice file which we can experiment with. In this case too, let's try modifying the theme, and it has changed to green, and the default font has been modified. Same thing here, you can edit what you like, both as far as texts and as far as single cells. You can see that. Again, if I were you, I'd save this model to go back to it afterwards, experimenting leisurely, step by step, and having fun with editing so that it becomes different from what it looks now. Why don't we discover one last model? This time, let's exploit the suggested searches offered by Microsoft. What about the list category? It will provide you with a series of new extra models. Let's select a movie list, for example. Let's create this new model which can be edited just the way you like. In this case as well, once you're finished with editing, save the file only with save, because this is giving you the chance to discover a new window where to select more save options to end up eventually in the Save As screen. Okay, mobile is ready. Be bold and try all the various templates, which are models on which to experiment. Remember, any question is more than welcome throughout the course. I'm about to talk about a very useful, crucial function in Excel, enabling to insert hypertext links within the cells. A hypertext link, usually called link, is a classical link which is inserted to refer the content of a cell to a specific website address, like for example www.google.com, or to another Excel file, or else to a spreadsheet within it. Let's see how to insert this link. Start from A2 cell, go to Insert menu and click on Link. When clicking on Link, this tab opens, as you can see, and in it you can find the folder Excel_in where we keep our previously saved files, and an address element enabling to insert the website. When clicking on OK, you'll notice how the content of the cell has changed. This is because this link has been inserted. We can work on this cell, getting the original theme back, inserting the white color as text color, and deselecting the underline button. The link is going to stay and it's recognizable by this pointing hand. Now left click to open our google.com. Besides this kind of link, we can insert a link to a different Excel file. Right click on A3 cell, click on link. The tab will be displayed once again thanks to this shortcut, and select calendar as target document. Click on OK and you'll get the cell back to its original state, and just with a click, the calendar we created before will be displayed. Lastly, we can see how to move from folder 1 to folder 2, which is still in a header and footer format, through a simple click. Go to Rome in A4 cell, right-click and click on Link. In this case, select Bookmark, which is going to open this new dialog box with the spreadsheet's references, that is folder 1, where we are now, and folder 2, where we want to go. Click on OK on the address bar. There's going to be this tag. Click again, and when clicking on the newly created link, you will end up in folder 2. Let's learn how to remove all the links we created. Just choose either a single cell or even all the cells containing links. Then right-click and choose Remove Hyperlinks. As you can see, the table is now back to the look it had at the beginning. Let's now see how to set the print preview of the Excel file so that to make it usable to everyone once it is printed. Let's start by enlarging the table so that, for example, we are up to 240 pixels. And this way, once the print preview gets open, we have the file divided into 2 different sheets, as you will see. Let's go on File, Print, and here is our preview, which visualizes the 2 separate sheets. In this moment, using Page Setup and heading to the first choice provided, which is the orientation of the page, simply by changing from portrait to landscape, that is from vertical to horizontal, the output is a page correctly printable by anyone. We can use some more tricks that reduce the scaling percentage of the page. Let's opt for a 60% adjusting, and as you see, the page shrinks and widens. Just in case tables should be inserted on the sides, these as well would result correctly visible. In addition to that, we can decide to refer to the fit function, which automatically adapts the page to the screen. Therefore, if we click on OK, it adjusts to the 100%, and if we decided then to make it vertical and to leave these proportions 1:1, the function would automatically adjust so that it results printable in the same way. We can also manage margins. We can lengthen the top margin and the bottom margin. In this case, we can see the difference only with the top margin. We can manage also the header and the footer by making them longer on the page. In this case, the footer would be lifted up and the header would be lower down. In addition to these functions, there's always the possibility to modify directly header and footer from here. And here's to you the Stasio file 2, which has become a Stasio file. This is useful to print your reports, but it is also useful to manage the PDF extension files. And fancy that, simply using the Microsoft Print to PDF function, we can swiftly head to print our file on a PDF sheet, which we will insert into our Excel_Inc folder to be able to open it and verify immediately it is in fact correctly displayed as it is in our sheet. We will deal now with the format of the single cells. As we have already inserted some lists, let's start talking about textual formats. Every single cell has got a format which is set within the menu Home under Number as number format by default. This format is considered as a text when, for example, you insert the name of a city, but it can also automatically get a numerical value providing you set it this way. If you notice, when containing a number, the cell tends to write a line. Let's see how to modify the format of the textual cell from general to text. You just have to right-click and open Format Cells, go into Text. It looks like there is no difference at all, but the change was made. The format has in fact become textual. In this case, if you inserted 10 as a value, Excel would understand this as text and not as number. Therefore, when a textual cell has got a numerical value, working out mathematical calculations is not possible. In addition to this numerical value interpreted as text, you can also create some special value, like for example the zip code. If you pressed OK when inserting the new value, the cell would be read as a zip code and it might take up to 5 digits. You can also modify it by inserting 3 digits. But you'll see that the format does not change. If on the contrary, you used another special format, you should click back on Format Cells, and you might choose to use another kind of zip code with 4 more digits, or a telephone number, or a social security number. And now it's the moment of talking about mathematical cell formats, specifically about the most used mathematical format, which is surely the numerical format. You can see that right now the A6 format cell is still a general format. See here. Using right click, then going to Format Cells and then opening the dialog box, we can choose the number format from the list and apply, for example, 2 decimal places to the selected cell after the point of the selected number. Hitting on OK, the number will remain within the formula bar, but the screen will display the number with 2 decimal places. Therefore, if we wanted to insert an additional value, it would turn out anyway with 2 decimal places and only 1 definite in the formula bar. Same story if we wanted to add 2 numbers. The number would be rounded up on screen and there would be 3 digits within the formula bar. Now let's see also 2 other mathematical formats which are insertable in the same way. Go to Format Cells once again and you have the chance of inserting a fraction. Therefore, go to fraction format and choose how many digits the fraction should have. With only one digit, the result will be 10 and 1/6. With two digits, the result would be 10 and 11/71, and so on and so forth. If you clicked OK, choosing just one digit for the fraction, on screen you'd see that the result would be 10 and 1/6, but in the formula bar it will remain 10.155. In the scientific formulas, Excel behaves the same way. It displays the exponential within the selected cell, and on screen it will display as 1.02 exponential plus 0.1, whereas in the formula bar it will remain 10.155. If we modified freely the cell itself, pressing OK, the result would be updated on screen, but the cell format would not change in any case. As a consequence, we might update the single cell in any way without the format to be affected. Actually, to modify it, you should go back to the format cells, choose fraction, or else you could go to this menu, choosing, for example, number. The focus of this lesson is a cell format strictly related to the previous one. By right-clicking and going to Format Cells, let's analyze the currency format. This format enables you to insert, in addition to decimals and to the number chosen, also a symbol related to the currency, say, of USA. Clicking on OK, you'll end up in the cell displaying 142, but in the form of currency. This is going to be very useful when handling budgets or invoices through Excel. Remember the invoice we analyzed in the previous model? You can manage numbers too, but they should have, like in this case, a value with at least 3 decimal places with, instead, a format of 0 decimals. In case you needed both cells to have the same value, listing and aligning them as you were working on an accountancy document, the accountancy format is the right format. Using this format, you can choose a currency symbol, sure, like the USA dollar we have just used, but you can also properly align two values as you were in fact working on an accountancy document. Notice here, the symbol related to the USA dollar is sitting at the beginning of the cell, just past a blank digit, whereas the numerical value is sitting at the end of the cell with the same decimal places for both. Therefore, if you need a table with a single value to be displayed and to be worked on as currency, my opinion is you'd surely better use currency so that you have just that single value with the USA dollar symbol. If instead you want to create a list, as just seen, you can use accounting after selecting the reference to the currency required. Let's talk now about the temporal formats in the Excel cells. Let's start from any numerical value, for example, 142. Let's use format cells and let's see the result of a format change between date and time. In case you decided to insert a date format both on screen and within the formula bar, this new value would appear displaying this order: month, day, and year. This value has got a numerical value associated by default in Excel, which is 142, as we can see if we select number as cell format. This happens because Excel can, this way, execute calculations basing itself on a given number. Therefore, if you have to calculate a range of dates, you can use both this format and the classical date format we have just seen to perform additions, subtractions, multiplications, and so on. In addition to this type of format, we can talk about the time format. There are different types of formats we can define here. The classical format, which implies a time with the use of AM and PM, or else the normal format, the one based on the 24 hours as a whole, which will give us a result of 2 digits instead of 4 digits. If you inserted a time value within a cell which used to be a day before, the system would automatically associate the time to the date. However, if you modified here and delete it, the time would remain. Of course, you can modify it freely, as it's the case with any other kind of date and time. These types of formats are modifiable also through the custom tools. The custom format enables to modify the format on screen both as far as the date and as far as the time. In this case, we are modifying a time format, and therefore, if you use, for example, the combination hour, minutes, seconds, and confirm it, you will get the time format without AM and without PM, with a 0 before 2 to define every single digit of the format itself. If you decided to insert a date, for example, the 7th of December of 2020, you would have the date inserted and the time format associated with the custom format, thing which is modifiable into date using short date. And this way you would just have the date inserted inside, on which you can custom the format, inserting, for example, a format set with this order: day, month, and year, that is 7-20. Guys, welcome to the last lesson regarding the cell formats. We are now dealing with the percentage format. This format is the last available within Excel, and it brings any kind of converted value to multiply itself by 100. That means if you have a value already inserted in a cell, like in this case, even though the format is accounting, just by right-clicking with the mouse and then by going to Format Cells and then by choosing percentage as a C, the number will automatically multiply itself by 100, and it will display the percentage value in the end. This cell format has got a peculiarity. Once you have formatted the cell, you can insert any numerical value, say for example 50, and the system would let it stay just the way you inserted it. So 50% will remain 50%, despite the fact there's a multiplication by 100 of an already inserted value, and this happens automatically. Why on earth is that? Because Excel detects, just like it happens with the dates, exclusively numerical values and not the percentage within the system. Therefore, if you go and check what the corresponding amount of this 50% is in terms of numbers, you will see that it is equals to 0.50, because this way Excel will be able to execute calculations even within a cell with a percentage value.